going to be talking about building a culture of innovation for growth today. And this relates to my experience, my time at Glen Raven. So I hope that this is helpful to you in some way. I go into a pretty in-depth explanation or tools of offerings that I'll share with you. And so I took some great inspo from past Women in Textile Conference, the first one I think in Savannah. And so I'm going to break up my talk with a couple of book draws today. And we're going to do that using the chat function. And Megan from IFAI is going to monitor that for me. So I appreciate that, Megan, and look forward to sharing a couple of new books with someone today, or everybody, but whoever wins those. So this group, Recall, did a great job of talking about Glen Raven and who we are. And maybe you're wondering what an old company like Glen Raven can tell any of you about innovation. Well, we are an old textile company, about 140 years old, but textiles, as this group knows, dates well back to the Egyptian times, I think. And because fabric is everywhere, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, but fabric as we know it today is not going to be the same in the future. And the reason for that is that we are living in this crazy time of exponential change. And every day there's a new technology coming out. Right now, this minute, like as these words leave my lips, we are living in the slowest rate of change we will ever know. Tomorrow is going to be faster, and the days that follow even faster. And this was all happening before the pandemic, and the pandemic that is causing us to be remote today is only adding to that acceleration of change. And just think about, even in the last 10, 11, 12 years, all the technology that has come to pass. We had 2009, the iPhone came out. 2011, they added the Siri voice assistant to that. The Lightning port was added soon after, and then you have the Touch ID that you put your thumb on the phone and recognizes you. And think about just how those technologies have influenced other areas of technology, right? So maybe we have an Amazon Alexa in our home, or a Google Home that's voice activated, or we have the biometric one-touch interface surfaces that will allow those dangerous one-touch purchases. I won't admit to those. The doorbells that we can answer from anywhere around the world. I was in China a couple of years ago on Halloween, and I was able to answer the door for trick-or-treaters. It was crazy. And then I was this remote that I've been raving about, I just looked that up right before I hopped on, and that was actually founded in 2019. So, and that's just in the last, few years that all this has happened. And when 5G finally becomes mainstream, whenever that is, things are only going to get faster. So we all need to buckle up, because it is coming, and it is, moving quickly. So Glen Raven, we are the inventor of pantyhose, umbrella. We wove the fabric for the first flag on the moon, and we have continued to evolve over time since our early days. And that is really the one thing that we've been able to thrive on, is change. My slides go dark. You're not having technical difficulties. It's just kind of the form that I use for that. So before the pandemic, a big part of my time was spent traveling, visiting with customers, visiting with team members in different locations around the globe. And working in innovation, one of the things that I appreciate and value is what different people think or associate with innovation. And I'll ask you to use the chat function to just kind of populate that with what you think of when you think of innovation. This is not for the book draw, by the way. This is just so we can see where everybody is on innovation. It could be a person, it could be a brand, it could be an organization. There's no wrong answer to it. I'd just be interested to see. And literally, I can't see right now, so I hope to get to see later when I can get back in remote. But when I'm in China, I typically will hear things about Alipay and Alibaba as being companies that are innovative. In France, we often hear about L'Oreal. Yes, they're a skincare company and cosmetics company, but they're also doing some really cool things with sensors and technology. And then some of the things that are companies that you may think about, Google, Tesla, Amazon, those all come to mind when we think about innovation. And typically, companies that we associate with being innovative are companies that specialize in one thing or another, right? And at Glen Raven, we specialize in textiles, but because it's a super old industry, we have to continue to innovate. It's necessary, it's paramount to the survival of our business long into the future. And it's interesting when I would be curious to know, I wish we were face to face so I could read your faces, but when you tell people you're in the textile industry that are not in the textile industry, it's interesting to kind of hear some of that feedback. Some people think that, textiles had all gone offshore years ago, or, that I didn't know you were in the fashion industry, and they tend to associate it with that. And that can be the case sometimes. However, traditional textiles are changing daily, but the fact that they are abundant in our lives have not changed. I mean, look in the space around you, what you're wearing. I got a coat on my lap because I'm a little chilly in my office, but there's carpet, there's window treatments, the car you drive. All of those things are things that we may think of when we think of more traditional textiles. But how about fabrics that might serve as soft interfaces? You rub your hand across the sofa or the armchair in your living room to turn the lights up or turn them down, or to turn your music on or to turn your music off. Or perhaps the textiles embedded in roadways that we can understand when an earthquake may be approaching. Or shoes that have GPS in them. I don't know if Sabrina from yesterday is doing that with her shoe company, but to get you to your next meeting on time, right? Well, those are textile related innovations that exist now. They exist today. You may have seen or experienced some of those, and we did not get to this point in the industry without innovating and thinking differently. We had to innovate in order to get there. So possibility is everywhere. You all as innovators know that. You have some type of idea out there and you're going for it. And so thinking about growing a culture of innovation, what is it that inspired you with your idea? Like, what is it that's driving you? And what is that bigger picture? Because innovation is not just for the tech industry. Industries as old as textiles have to innovate, and if we don't, we have more to lose. So I'm gonna, and it all starts with a vision, right? A vision is where kind of your culture of innovation begins to seed, foster, and grow. And mainly how innovation is key or rooted in your vision. So you should see on the screen now the Glen Raven logo and our vision, which is let endless possibilities begin. And it is definitely simple by design because we have 3,000 employees, nearly 3,000 employees around the globe, and we want them to know it and we want them to remember it. And it is somewhat of an open-ended statement. You have some people and they'll say it's very open-ended, but in a sense of innovation, ideas come from inspiration and imagination. And before we start to whittle down ideas, we really need lots and lots of ideas to get that one really great idea. I tend to associate it with like a professional photographer. When you go and have that professional photo taken, he doesn't, sit you down, take one photo and say, okay, there you go, there's your photo. He's taking lots, or she's taking lots of images to get that one really great photo. And we also chose this particular language because we feel like it opens up the thinking, and bigger than that, it opens up the culture at our organization and giving people the permission to be creative, and also creating a community of people that believe in possibility. Like, things can happen. You just have to dream big and figure out how you can achieve those goals. So what is it that you as a leader are striving for in your organization? And how clearly can you communicate what it is that's your vision across the organization? And I want to take a quick second to define a mission versus a vision. And a vision is something that's like that big picture horizon thing that's out there, that's kind of like your beacon guiding you. And a mission is more or less the way you're going to get there. And so I just wanted to take a minute to mention that. So there's definitely some well-known companies out there that use vision to drive innovation at their organization, and you can see some of those listed here on the screen. But maybe there's a company or a brand, or maybe somebody you put in the chat function that inspires you, and maybe you should go and take a look and learn about what their vision is and see if it can provide some insights. So might be worth a Google spin, but anyway, these are larger companies, and even though Glen Raven is a global company, we are definitely no Amazon or Google. But it doesn't matter what size company you are, you can use vision to drive an innovative culture and innovation at your organization. So we are at our first book draw already. And I don't know if any of you have seen this book. And I will admittedly say that I'm only about halfway through with it, but it's a fantastic book. And the way the person is going to win this book is the first person to have their information or their answer put in the chat function. So this is for the book draw. Megan, if you will monitor this, the question is, and there's no right or wrong answer here, it's just who gets it in first. Who is your favorite female innovator? Today is National Women's Day. Please place your favorite female innovator in the chat, and then the first person to have that come through and be populated will win this book, and we'll make sure to get that sent to you. So we'll keep going. So my involvement with Glen Raven's vision was back in 2008, when we thought the sky had fallen out at that point with the economy. Little did we know what was going to be happening today. But the economy back then, I'm sure many of you will recall, was taking a hit, and our president, always being positive, rallying the troops, wanted to ask all of our associates what we felt like the future of the organization would be or should be. And I think he connected with what I had to say. He asked me to lead a team to develop this new vision for our organization. So whether it's a passionate employee that you have or you yourself, there needs to be a champion to live that vision, bring that vision along the way, because it needs to be clear and pervasive throughout your organization. So you have a vision, and you've declared innovation as core to that vision. Where does it go from here? Well, it can't come across like a campaign or a marketing blitz, because those can definitely fizzle out. And there's nothing worse than having this big firecracker, presentation, and then everything kind of fizzling out. A vision needs to be kept alive, and it needs to be kept thriving at all levels of your company. So how do you make sure that happens, no matter what size your organization is? Well, one of the ways you can do that is by getting your team leaders or your executive leadership team on board early in the process, so that it provides a sense of ownership and gives your vision traction. That could be a way. You could also hire this communication specialist to help develop messaging to make sure it moves throughout your organization, because it is such a driving force for the future of your company, it needs to have attention and respect that it deserves to help you reach that goal and drive your company forward. And in our situation, we felt like this vision, our vision is just like a proclamation. So it deserves this pomp and circumstance that's really going to get people's attention, and it will keep their attention. And we wanted to get their attention when we launched the vision. It was back in 2010. And so we decided to have like 115 person high school marching band, full on brass band with drums, percussions, uniforms. They paraded up and down the halls, through the cubicles, and people had their Twitter feeds going. They were taking photos and live streaming. They couldn't believe there was a marching band. We got people's attention, and we have been able to keep it. And we need to make sure when that vision is, the message does go out, that there is a laser focus, because you don't want to have any misinterpretation and have everybody align on the message, excuse me, that you are sending, because you want everybody every day to show up, either in a Zoom call or in person when we're all back together again, to the office, personifying that vision every day. Take a sip, sorry. And I also want to just take a second to clarify that when your vision is communicated out, it needs to be thought of as an ongoing movement versus a project, right? Because this vision is something that is living and breathing. And just like this little kiddo that you see on the screen, a vision needs nurturing and it needs cultivation in order to bring it along, for it to mature and to grow. And just like a child needs a parent to lead the way, your movement requires that ongoing attention. And at Glen Raven, this happens to be me, but maybe it's you at your organization, but it needs somebody or it's going to fizzle out and die. And that's why we don't call a vision or we don't relate it to a campaign, because a campaign has a beginning and an end. And a vision is this movement that is continual. It's an investment in your company's future. It's ongoing, and it takes, your vision is something that takes thought, commitment, and strategy, just like other areas of your business take. It needs to be included in that planning process every year. Is it clear to everyone over year what that vision is? Is everybody remembering it? Are the new employees that you're bringing on board, are they connecting with that vision? Do they show up personifying it every day? And how can you measure the progress that your movement is making in the organization? So, and it definitely needs to be connected to your business strategy and tactics. So you can't just sit back and think that once you make this proclamation that it's going to grow legs and develop on its own. It definitely needs somebody to bring it along. Let's see. I'm trying to go to my next slide. Okay. Oh no. You get back. Brains on Fire is the book that I want to talk about. So maybe I can get that back up here in a second. It is, I'll just keep talking. It is written by Agency in South Carolina. And it basically is a fantastic book that really clarifies the difference between a movement and a campaign. And it is something that I have a lot of flags in this book. And I won't go over all of those with you, but some of the key, there it was for a second. I'll just let it sit for a minute. But some of the key takeaways from the book include that movement is something that is not a campaign. It has a beginning or it's ongoing. It doesn't have a beginning and an end like a campaign. And in a movement, there is no us versus them. It is everyone. Everybody needs to be included in this at all levels of the organization. And a movement is something that inspires behavior versus a campaign that influences behavior. And then you also want to think about connecting people and with a shared passion to try to build a community so that your this community is going to be the foundation of your vision and help keep it alive and thriving for years to come. So there's lots of great information in this book, and it was super helpful to me when I stepped into a full-time role with working in this vision, because I had a job at Glen Raven and I was working in our catalog business, managing that, and volunteered to step over and take over this full time. And I had some people say, like, why are you leaving this great job at Glen Raven to take on this project? Because that's what, some folks saw it as, and what are you going to do when this job finishes? Well, I didn't see it that way. I do see it as a movement and an ongoing thing. And, 11 years later, here we are still moving forward in that vision. So I am going to take a second and just forgive me for a second. You might see my screen. There. Wait, I'm going to see if I can keep going to the next screen. Okay, so maybe I'm back on track now. So once your vision is ready, it's time to get it out there and let all the employees know about it, right? No matter what size your organization is. And right now it is, I'm checking my time while we're talking. Right now it is me and 40 different Glen Raven locations around the world to be able to make sure that this vision stays alive and activated. And I can't do that alone. I need to have people to help me. And we had to pull together a network of people that I'm going to call doers. And doers are exactly what you may think. They are people that actually do something. And they're going to help you keep your vision alive and activated throughout your organization. So, who are the doers and how can you identify them? Think about who works at your organization and who are maybe some of the people that are well respected no matter what their job is. Or maybe who are the folks that you're happy to see when you walk in every morning or see on your Zoom call, and as the case may be, or are those folks that are always rallying for the birthday celebration, or the person in accounting that's always raising their hand for that extra project. Those are your doers. Those are the ones that are passionate about doing something because they want to do it, not because they have been asked to do it. They're excited about new ideas and opportunities. They want to do more than an 8-to-5 job, and they understand that new ideas can be messy, startups can be messy, they can beat you up, and they definitely don't fit into that 8-to-5 work day. And these people know that, and it drives them. They're excited about it. So you don't have to have full-time doers in order to help get your vision and keep it activated across the organization. For us at Glen Raven, we have a group of folks that are leaders in the organization. We call them innovation ambassadors, and that is our group. They're our activation team that helps keep that vision alive and thriving throughout the company. And they have regular jobs at Glen Raven. They're marketers, they're designers, they're customer service, they're operations engineers. So I also want to give a shout out to those some of those folks because they are here today. We have Lindsay Shakarjan, Caroline Yates, Caitlin Bell, and Anne Marie Logue. and I hope I'm not leaving anybody off because we have about 30 some of those innovation ambassadors, and they are rock stars. We could not do it without them. So it's also a great way to identify high potentials in your organization, provide an outlet to engage creativity in a new and different way that maybe these folks may not have in their normal day-to-day jobs. It's also a vehicle to have your voice be heard in a new and different way. It's a great way to impact change at an organization, and it's definitely a way to get the attention of top leadership. So there are lots of bonuses, I guess, for being a part of this leadership and activation team that takes this and keeps your vision alive and thriving at your organization. Earlier, I was talking about how the vision needs to be a part of the planning process. Well, just like you have a job description when you're hiring for a new role, we wanted to put together a job description for our innovation ambassadors. And this is what we put together, and I'm not expecting you to read through that, but basically it helps you think through the type of person that you want to help keep your vision alive throughout the organization. And you don't have to make it formal like this, but sometimes just putting pen to paper helps kind of start the thinking process about what you want to do. So what about, though, the people that are not often raising their hand, or the quiet voices in the room? We need to make sure that we connect with them too. We have to connect with everybody, because if we don't connect with certain people, they may think that the vision doesn't apply to them, or the message could get splintered or misinterpreted in some way. So we wanted to make sure that we had a tool in place for that. And this is a tool that I think is really cool, and it is called Typeform. And if I can get that to come up, there. This is a free or paid tool. Let me see if I can get it back again. I'll keep talking while that decides what it's going to do. But it is a tool that lives on our intranet. And it is something that is a browser-based tool. It can be customized for the paid version, or it can be a free version, as I said, depending on what your budget may be. But it allows everyone in your ecosystem to have a voice. So sharing a new idea or a thought can go through that system. And so it's a really cool tool, and there's other things out there like it. SurveyMonkey may have some things too, but there's some other neat things out there. So you've got all your people connected and aligned with your vision. What do you do with ideas and thoughts that people share? I have a video, and I want to share that with you. And Megan, I think you're going to share that. It is the Glen Raven video. So let's have a look at that, and then I'll be back.
Glen Raven 3.0 is all about generating ideas. So what happens when you have an idea? There's an easy way to submit ideas. Using the 3.0 idea submission website, you'll complete a series of questions to help better communicate.
You can see your screen now.
Okay, so it is a black screen by the time I get back up again, so it's okay. That's what we want. So you saw that video. It is our innovation program, kind of our own version of Shark Tank in the form of Pitch Day. It involves some social media, some voting, live voting, and certainly decisions and potentially seed funding from our leadership team. But I want to call your attention to the video, because it was designed with animation specifically and bright, playful colors, because we wanted the program, or we want the program, to be inviting to everyone. We don't want people to feel like you have to have a PhD to have a great idea, because that is just not the case. And there are many ideas out in the world today that were not created by a rocket scientist. So I just wanted to put that out there, because it is something that is important to keep in mind. And, you know, we did have a budget around that animation piece, but there are different ways that you can, put your message out there. And certainly technology today allows us to do things like that with our iPhone. We are currently in the process of refreshing our program, and so excited about that because we did launch it back in 2017, and kind of to my point about keeping things alive and moving, this is part of that. So we want to, reevaluate periodically and make sure that we have things moving forward and aligning with our business and strategy. So it's an exciting time. So you have your doers in place, you've connected everyone. The next thing that I want to talk about is space, and space can be defined in a lot of ways. And the first way that I'm going to talk about space today is actually in a way that it means permission or opportunity. If we think about innovation and disruptive innovation, we really need to think outside the box, right? That's where that phrase comes from. If we're always looking inside our markets and inside our industries, we're only going to have the same ideas recycling. And we might get a brand extension or an update on a current product, but we're not going to get that truly disruptive innovation. And so innovation, disruption, those kinds of things typically happen when somebody's asleep at the wheel or somebody is coming from outside your industry to really disrupt things. And I know you guys are very familiar with the Netflix and Blockbuster case study. That's a prime example of industry disruption. You also have the Netflix and Blockbuster case study, and the Airbnb and hotel chain. Sorry, I was repeating myself. I'm going to try to move forward on my slide here, but because there are a couple that I wanted to share with you that you may not know about. Actually, I have 4. This one is a company called Graviki Labs, and they make ink out of carbon emissions, upcycled carbon emissions. And so it is totally safe. It's carbon free, carbon negative, and it works in all your mainstream printing. So just think about like, wow, this company came up with this idea, something very new and different. This next one, you probably much more familiar with this unlikely collaboration between Levi and Google. If you don't know it, I would encourage you to go look up the video, Project Jacquard. It's a great unlikely collaboration, as I said. And there are a couple more I would like to share with you. If I can get it to move forward. I'll just go ahead and tell you that if you guys are on Clubhouse, that's a new social media platform. And if you're there, give me a shout when you're on. It is a combination of something like a TED Talk and a social media platform and a conference room, all combined into one. And so it's a pretty interesting concept. And then the last thing, oh, here's Clubhouse. It's decided to come up. So that's what you can look for if you go on iTunes. And then the last one that I want to share with you is called PathMatch. And you can look that up, pathmatch.com. It is a very interesting startup out of Silicon Valley that works with students in high school and college level to help them determine what their career path is. It is very not the same thing as those standardized assessment tests. And it's just a really unique format. Here's the logo for that. So anyway, there are a lot of different ways that you can think about going outside the box, but space in this particular way that I want to share with you is just getting outside your core markets and looking up and looking around to see what is out there, that giving yourself, your company, that permission to explore. So the next, I have another book draw, and this is, it advanced on its own. This is the book, Big Macs and Burgundy. And if you're a wine person, I hope you'll totally love this book as much as I do. It is wine pairings for the real world, exactly what it is. So it's a fun book. And for the question for this draw, this is going to be in the chat function. I'm checking my time again. And I'd like for you to put, again, there's no right or wrong answer, put the first thing that you can share. We talk about bright spots at Glen Raven. And this is a time where we need to really focus on the bright spots that are out there. So what is a bright spot that you have experienced because of this pandemic that maybe you would not have experienced otherwise? And it can be work or it can be personal, either one. Go ahead and fill and populate the feed, and everybody can have fun reading along with those. The first person to get that entered in, Megan will let me know who that is, and we will get this book to you. So fun book. Talking about getting outside the box, the permission to explore. A quick experience I can share with you is when Glen Raven started to go to the Consumer Electronics Show several years ago. And that was something that I think CES didn't understand because they only want industry people there. So it took us a while to actually get accepted into the show. And we finally got accepted to the show. And then here at the office, it was kind of like, why do we need to be going to that show? Well, fast forward to where we are today, and we've been to that show every year. They have a tremendous startup hall called Eureka Park that has lots of great new business ideas. Some will go on and flourish and some will fizzle out, but it's so inspirational, and it really tells you a lot of what's going on in the technology industry, which has provided a lot of opportunity to us. So space, get outside your zone, take a look around, and get outside your core. Okay, the second way that I want to define space is talking about actual physical space and being able to create some type of experimentation zone at your organization. And if you don't have a budget, it can be something very simple and small as rearranging a room. And this is, if you feel like you need a fresh change at your home office, you can do the same thing, like, change things around. Or if you have a budget, certainly you can create new and different things that way. But we're going to talk now about how space actually affects the outcomes of your discussions, your meetings, your processes, things like that. And Remo, I think, has been a great platform, again, to walk into a space. You think you're walking into a Zoom meeting. This is a virtual space, obviously, but being able to walk into a space and sit at a virtual conference room table has been more productive in getting that outcome of talking and socializing and networking, because creativity requires creativity, right? You can't put people in a structured environment and think that they are going to generate creative ideas. There was a study done, lots of studies out there on this, the effects that space have on the workplace. And this particular study that I wanted to share with you was done by this group of engineers in a trade association. And they tracked 18 different organizations of different sizes around the globe and determined some key takeaways: that employees are more stimulated in a creative space. It helps process knowledge. This creative space helps process knowledge. So think about when you're trying to train employees, perhaps train them in a space that's more creative versus maybe what people would typically think as a classroom setting, because it's going to help them retain that information. It also is an indication of an organization's culture. And so if you talk about being a company that's innovative and creative, and somebody shows up at your office and you are a cube farm, that's not really saying that you are an innovative organization. So they also found in the study that the creative spaces increase social interaction, which help improve workflows. So these are some of the highlights from this particular study, but there's others out there that you can find. And if you have limited space, work with what you have and set it up to be something unexpected, because you will have different outcomes. And like I said, creativity requires creativity. So we at Glen Raven, we have some good friends at Stanford's D School. If you're familiar with that, it's a school of design thinking. D stands for that, and it has a Plattner School of Design. We were able to have a couple of guys come in that have written a book on making space. Oh, it worked. I'm so glad you can see the book. So this is basically a workbook on how to create your own creative space. And Scott spoke at Glen Raven a few years ago. And as you can see, I love this book. I have so many flags in this book. But I have a couple of quick videos. And actually, Megan, I'm just going to play that first one. But if you will roll that video, and then I'm going to share just quickly the last bit of my presentation.
There you go.
I'm just going to go to my last slide. Let me just do that from this way. Okay, you guys can see this. Okay. So just quickly, because I know I'm over my time, Fast Company does this every year. This one's a couple of years old, you can see, but there are companies out there that have these creative spaces. So L'Oreal has product laboratories, Amazon has experimentation zones, Johnson & Johnson has a real initiative around collaborative culture. So they have like these pairing seats set up in sporadic places throughout their office to promote these impromptu conversations, and SAS and Sephora have creativity hubs. So we've got studies that have proven this. There are examples of companies that I've just shared with you that have these spaces in their location. Glen Raven, we have one as well. We call it a concept gallery. It's an interactive space that houses our materials library. And but again, you can have something on a range of budgets depending on, if you just have a space or you have money to put into it. So also in the gallery, we use it to bring in innovation exhibits. So bringing things in outside of our organization, technologies like 3 and 4D printing and augmented reality and virtual reality glasses, so that folks can understand how those innovations might influence or impact our business in some way. So space, going back to permission and physical space. My closing slide is not coming up, but I will just kind of go over and say quickly that the things that I've shared with you today are definitely not exclusive to Glen Raven. And I hope you will give some or all of them a try and let me know how it goes. I hope to see everyone in person next year and hear all about it. And thank you for having me today. And I'm sorry we had a few technical difficulties, but thank you for keeping us on track, Megan.